Hey everyone, so the last three Dramionies I read were all so different and so good, and they really just, I feel like, covered the gamut of what you might be interested in reading, so I thought I'd talk about all three of them in this video, so let's get into it. So the first fic is called Les Pelerins. I don't know, I don't speak French, I'm hoping that's correct, by Pacific Rimbaud. Pacific Rimbaud has emerged as one of my favorite authors and wins the prize, in my head, for most beautiful Dramione fanfictions ever. If you have never read one of her fics, I implore you, do it. Her most famous fic is probably Love and Other Historical Accidents, which is phenomenal. But if you just want to give her a shot, her one-shots, mwah! So this story would technically be considered a one-shot. It's maybe a little bit longer than a normal one-shot, maybe. But like all of her one-shots, it has this incredibly epic feel of packing an entire relationship with all the feelings into one short piece. Hermione has recently moved to Paris to start over and just learn to be post-war and post-school, and she finds herself in a cafe where she recognizes the hand and the bearing of one Draco Malfoy. She intends to leave, but something draws her to him, and he's oddly, weirdly, pleasantly surprised to see her. He asks her to go for a walk, and together they spend the wintry day traipsing across Paris, catching up, connecting, talking about both nothing and everything. They have dinner together, they go back to Hermione's flat. Just sigh. So good. As usual, Pacific Rimbaud packs such beauty and such emotional punch and such meaning into so few words that even while not much has actually occurred, you feel, along with Draco and Hermione, that something momentous and life-changing has happened. Okay, the second fic I read had wildly different feels, and it was Divination for Skeptics by Olivia Blake. This is the funniest fic that I've read in a while. So it's a couple years past the war, and the whole gang are in boring entry-level positions in their life, trying to do good in a world that really just wants them to toe the party/ministry line. Hermione is a journalist who wants to challenge the status quo, of course, but she finds herself relegated to writing pop culture fluff pieces instead. Harry is an Auror who's like walking a kind of embarrassingly lowly beat, and Draco works in magical accidents, but he and Theo are kind of like flailing through their lives. So enter George Weasley, who introduces his latest innovation, the Meant For Me charm, which once taken puts your compatibility percentage with anyone you meet on their wrist. Of course, this takes the wizarding world by storm, kind of boosting and ending relationships. Harry and Ginny break up over a low compatibility score, as do Hermione and Ron. So Theo, bored and in his usual way of personifying chaos, gets arrested by Harry one night and realizes that he and Harry are 100% compatible, and decides to continue to get arrested in order to ruin Harry's life or to get closer to him. Who can say which? While bailing Theo out, Draco runs into Hermione, who's there to see Harry, and they notice that their compatibility is actually very low. But there's sort of a spark there, and they decide to go for drinks, and they start meeting up for lunch and things like that randomly. And weirdly, for both of them, their compatibility score starts to go up. So they begin a physical relationship, and I just have to say, it is one of the best written says scenes I've ever read. It's spicy, but it's funny. The emotions that they're both feeling are so real and so accurate and so incredible. It's funny, it's sexy, it's angsty, it's just everything. Olivia Blake tends to write Hermione as slightly neurodivergent in this very interesting way, which I actually love. Her logical brain gets in her way, and it makes her confusion over her feelings for Draco like less idiocy and more understandable. Draco, as usual, is at his snarky, smirky, piney, simpy best. Olivia Blake has also created one of my favorite written characters ever, and that's her version of Theo Knott. Theo Knott always is kind of my favorite character, regardless of the writer. But seriously, read one of her works and tell me you wouldn't abandon your current life to be friends with this fan-fictional character. I need him in my life. He is so good, and he makes me like Draco more and makes me like Harry more. And I am a not pot convert for life. Like, honestly, Ginny who? This one is just over 200 pages, and it's well worth the read. Come for the feels and the laughs, but the character portrayals, the crisp, sharp dialogue, so funny, the strong political point of view, they are all just what has made me a huge Olivia stan this year. Okay, so finally, the longest piece I read recently was The Disappearances of Draco Malfoy by a speechwriter, whose name is actually really Riley Redgate. This one is almost 700 pages, but again, it's very, very exciting, and it did not feel like a long slog. This is a 7th year fic, and it definitely is very, very plot heavy. There is romance, but YA spice. So if you're looking for heavier petting, move along. I have other recommendations for that I can give you. but I personally thought this fic was truly stellar. So in scope, this fic is very similar to Marked by Olivia Blake, but while the plot points were similar, the tone and arc are different, and I didn't find myself comparing them. They are for sure both their own things and have their own things going on. But if you read Marked and you thought, I'd love to read another fic like this is a good one. So this fic begins on the astronomy tower. We're like right in there. Draco is holding his wand to Dumbledore. Dumbledore convinces him not to do it and offers him the Order's protection, and Draco finally lowers his wand. So Draco is then brought to Grimmauld Place and hidden along with his parents while the Order plot and work around them. During the flight of the Seven Potters, Snape does unalive Dumbledore, and Hermione, who was with Dumbledore, accidentally apparates back to Grimmauld Place with Dolohov in tow. So Lucius unalives Dolohov, but then they have to go on the run again. So Tonks hides Lucius and Narcissa, and Draco goes on the Horcrux hunt with the Golden Trio. Can I just say, I love Draco on the Horcrux hunt. I usually prefer fics where they're all actual adults and that happen post-war. But if I'm going to read a wartime fic, I love this trope. I love Harry and Ron learning to respect Draco and Draco unlearning his bigotry and falling kind of for all three of them. I mean, when it's done well, it really gets to explore how Draco being there would have actually made them all better people in many ways. And I just love that journey for them. I mean, this author, Riley Redgate, even in her author's notes, reiterates her respect and love for the canon, and this fic remains very close to it. She wanted to write this fic in the same style and voice, and I think she accomplishes that. It almost feels like you could swap this fic out for Deathly Hallows in some ways. This fic did have me tearing up and full-on crying in some places. It's not soul-crushing like Secrets and Masks or Manacled. It had more of the feels of Isolation by Bex Chan, other fics like that. If you like a 7th year Deathly Hallows rewrite, this is a truly great one. All right, and that's it for these three. Let me know which Dramione I should read next. I'm very into it, as always, and I love them. All right, I'll see you next time. Bye.